Hello and welcome to another Jam TV. I'm Dan Mellins-Cohen for the Hive Network, and we are at RetailJam 2024, where amongst many things there, as you would imagine, like most business events, lots of round table sessions where experts get together and in this case tell stories to each other. One of those storytellers would be Cameron Franks, COO of the appropriately named StoryStream. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome. So before we get into the storytelling that's going on here, perhaps you could tell us a bit about who StoryStream are.
Yeah, and obviously the hint is in the name, StoryStream, and on a very base level, we are helping brands stream stories about their products and the people that like their products to their customers or prospects, etc. So in a little bit more detail, we are a content platform, and the brand can use that to manage either their own content or content from the influencers, employees, and their customers. And we connect to all the social networks that can bring in the best of that content, help them manage the rights and relationship with those people, and then help them publish it back on social onto their websites. And what we find is actually you have the brand promise, but what customers say about their product, why I love this dress, this car, this makeup, is very powerful and makes people read more, engage more, and buy more. It's essentially a type of visual review or social proof. So that's the main part, and that's why we talk about authentic storytelling, using your customers to really tell your story.
Absolutely. So with that context in mind, you were on a roundtable session earlier.
Yep.
You are essentially our roving reporter.
Yep.
So do tell us what exactly happened, what was spoken about, what were the key topics?
Yeah, so I think that, our title was around like the authenticity, and I think everyone wants to be authentic, but they're trying to find ways of, how do I actually do that? And I think there's been obviously a big rise in, how do I use social? How do I use influencers? But then this question of how authentic are those influencers when everyone knows they're being paid to do it? So I think we've now seen this shift more towards how do I scale the use of creators or brand fans who are more authentic? So maybe it's more scale of more numbers of them with perhaps less reach, but that works much better because they are real consumers and lovers of your brand, as opposed to people you've just paid to promote your brand. So that's one story. I think the other interesting thing is, we're all talking about AI and how you can use generative AI. An interesting question of, okay, is it okay to use Gen AI to then make different versions of your product, but is that authentic? So at what point does what you can do with generative images become inauthentic? So that's, I think, an interesting debate we've been discussing a little bit on some of the roundtables today.
Absolutely, and I certainly think when it comes to things like products, the question comes down to whether or not, it's not necessarily just whether or not it's authentic, it's whether or not that, as a consumer, you need to care. So it's like, for example, a recolored item, that's fine. You can be pretty sure that the generated recolored version of the item is going to be pretty accurate to what you're going to receive. However, I think when you look at things like t-shirt printing companies is a great example. They show you the mock-up, which has been generated, but actually that's going to look nothing like what it's going to be when it's actually transferred to an object. So there's that element of authenticity and believability in, and I don't think we're there yet with AI.
And I think that's right. You can use it to scale the creation of variants of backgrounds, but you shouldn't be using it to create the actual content itself. And showing real people wearing the real products is always going to be more compelling.
Absolutely. So what do you think then, so to get still on the AI thing, I guess, but going back more towards the influencing side, the rise of AI influencers becoming a thing, where do you think that's going to fit in into sort of retail strategies? I mean,
to one degree, I think most people do know whether it's real or not. I think there'll be this idea of does a social media program need to be watermarked so you know it's real or not? But quite frankly, do people care? I mean, so some people are very happy to be following someone that they know is an avatar, that in gaming, they have their own avatar. So I think as long as people are clear, there might still be great value in someone that is an AI avatar, but as long as people are clear which is which, I think that's the important thing.
So how do you choose an influencer as a business that sits somewhere in the middle? How do you find someone that's going to actually come across as authentic to your brand?
So I think, we don't necessarily play a lot in that influencer space. What we're doing is we're finding the organic, real customers that are sharing. what is interesting is that when you ask a customer, say, oh, can I use this content, reshare it on my social, put it on my website, we'll find that immediately those people will start posting more and will become more brand fans or brand advocates. So essentially you're making a customer into a brand fan, into a micro or nano influencer by that. And then in some cases they do enter into either some sort of paid relationship. I'll give you samples, I'll give you this, and become a formal brand advocate. In other cases, just a symbiotic sort of relationship. I like to be having my images reshared by that brand, and I'm happy they're doing that, and I get some social currency. So we're more just looking at how we can scale that. The other thing that's interesting is measuring. So when we're publishing the content, we can see which images are working well. And we use, in that case, we are also using AI to say, this content that has these attributes work well, find me other content that will work in a similar way. So that's not generating new images, it's just using AI to find which content will resonate with which people.
Going back to authenticity, if you've got a brand that hasn't yet moved into the user-generated space, and they need to find people to create this authentic material, how do you convince people to start authentically creating this stuff without it coming across as, because you could easily say, like, we'll do a giveaway or whatever, but that's guaranteed to make inauthentic content.
Yes. I mean, I think one of the strategies that a number of brands use is they start using their store employees or their stylists, etc., to create content, but they're labeled as such, right? This is someone from the store, but that's a first step in starting to encourage that. And then I think really just showing people the type of content you want. You might start your brand social employee content, some influencer, but then just saying, we'd love to see what you think as well, and expanding that from there.
Amazing. So as a company, as StoryStream, what do you do when you work with brands to help them figure this out? How do they get started on that journey?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things we'll look at what type of content they have already, how they're using it, the difference between what they're putting out on different channels, what they're doing on social versus their website. We'll look at how much, do a social audit, how much content is already being shared by their community. And we can do that fairly easily with our platform and sort the good from the bad and show them what's going on. And then come up with a strategy, say, these are the types of areas that we should do. And then here's how to start expanding that, to say, let's ask people to share that content. Let's put that on the packaging. Let's put that in post-purchase emails. Let's put that on our link in bio, on our social channels to really start to do it. And we call this like the community flywheel effect, that if the community sees that the brand is celebrating their content, they tend to produce more content, it creates more organic social, and it also creates more content the brand can use.
Amazing. So I know you said you don't talk about, or don't necessarily do much in the influencer space per se, but hopefully, this being the world of YouTube, there is at least one or two influencers watching this video as we speak who would very much like to get involved with brands, but in a way where they're not a corporate shill that feels like they have to sell their soul. How do influencers find the right brand?
Ultimately, if it's a brand that you are naturally interested in, you're buying their products, driving their cars, that will naturally create that fit. So I think being authentic is about finding brands where you are adding value because you really believe in their brand or their products, and then naturally you will make better content that feels more authentic. So I think that don't stretch yourself to an area where you're not in. Work with a brand that you already use or love. That's the way to make it authentic.
Absolutely. So just before we wrap up, one thing I'd like to dig into with you a bit, that I think one of the big problems for a lot of companies is the fact that we almost forget that we've got all these social platforms that people are kind of locked into, but it means that the website itself is feeling less and less important because fewer and fewer companies are saying, go to our website. More and more companies are saying, check out our socials. But that means you're sort of surrendering a chunk of your brand to those third-party companies, and you've got no control over how that's then going to be publicly displayed. So I feel, especially for people who want to do a lot of stuff in the UGC space, you want to bring them back to your platforms that you can control and that you're not going to have random copyright blocks on and whatnot. How do you go about doing that, and what's really going on in that space?
But you need to make that experience on your site feel more social.
Exactly,
we call this like the attention economy. So if you can't sell your product in a 12-second reel or TikTok, you can't sell it to the modern consumer. But people are spending 56 minutes a day on TikTok, but only a few minutes on a brand website.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we need to make the brand websites more exciting. So we've been working with some on this notion of, you have the For You page on TikTok of the inspirational stuff you're interested in. How do we start creating that on a brand's website where there's lots of swipeable, streamable, authentic, short form video content that someone will then engage with your brand, find out more about your products. And then there's some very interesting things you can start to do with using AI to then automatically personalize that. And I've clicked on that, or I've done this, and make it more personal to them in the same way that is happening obviously today on the social networks.
Well, I think that about covers it for now. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And if people want to find out more about StoryStream and how they can start getting UGC into their own brand, where can they find out more?
Well, you can find us on StoryStream.ai. We're based in Brighton and London, and we'd love to talk to you.
Fellow Brighton lad. Thank you so much, Cameron, and thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next episode.